Okay, McCullough Pro Mac 610. Fuel line is a 1/4 inch outside diameter, 1/8 inch inside diameter. Most of the kits are wrong. This little grommet goes on from the outside because the lip covers this for making sure no sawdust gets in there. You got 2 screws on the top, and the choke plate goes under that, and both these screws are identical. This just sits right over the top of the carburetor. The bolt goes through there, and this is on over the choke pivot, whatever you want to call it. There's a little arm that attaches to there. Now this is the Walbro carburetor. I know some have Zama carburetors and some have Tillerson. This is you can see it on there, HDB. It's an HDB. It's written right there. Also on this plate, and I don't know if that has to do with the diaphragm or what, if I'm looking at it the right way, but I know I wrote it down, 5-3552. And on the body itself over here, which is next, kind of like on the corner from the yeah, here it is. You can see this thing. Of course, you have 500-mile-an-hour winds kicking up when you're trying to do this shit. This, gotta double check that. Okay, the cover is the 21-245 1-1. That's the cover right here. And the body is the 5-3552. But it's an HDB Walbro. There's a different Walbro for the 650. Now, the part that I blew out when I hit the high, I knew that what the problem was with this was I used the air gun. Now I find out you're not supposed to do that on the high side, because somehow the high side still wasn't adjusting even after I rebuilt the carburetor and cleaned it and all this other garbage. And what I must have done was blown out the check valve, and the check valve was the reason why it was harder to start, and also had a problem where you couldn't freaking adjust the high valve. And then when I blew it out, kind of messed it up. Sometimes it would, you know, works good on, but it floods out. That's the problem, it'll flood out. So that is probably 99% of the time why carburetors, when they get rebuilt and they're cleaned up and they still don't work, with all this damn wind noise here, this over here, they don't work because of the check valve. And there's different kinds of check valves that work with these carbs. Sometimes they are capillary designs, sometimes they're like a little valve itself. There's different kinds. I think this is a capillary type. Now on this Walbro, a lot of times people change out this diaphragm, which goes over that. The gasket goes under the diaphragm, and oh, that wind is making up. They have and on the opposite side they change out that fuel pump with the little reed valves, I guess that's what they call them. Then they might go in here and adjust this needle valve, which is supposed to be like even with this crap. Take this bolt here, you know, even with it with the gasket off. So it's really close, so it's good to go. And what I do, what I found out is, you see that little this stupid arm that's in here? I actually, not the pivot, but I put on one end of it a little bit of super glue gel so that arm doesn't fall out when I take this plate out. And I also put a little bit of super glue gel on the bottom of this spring so it sticks in there. I hate these little parts, man. Now, I can show you what part I blew out with the air gun. This is why this thing don't work right. If it's a Zama carb, I think they got like a plug here, and the check valve is under that. That's why these things, I think that's the only check valve that's in these damn things. The check valve works with the starting circuit and the high side circuit more than anything. And that is why that damn thing, that's why these things won't work right. So you got a bad carb. It's these check valves. I'm going to probably, I'll get this straightened out because the part is actually discontinued, but I think I can find it anyway. So we'll figure it out. Now the check valve goes in there, and I think I blew it out of there with the air gun because this one here is the high side. This side, before I wasn't getting full throttle, then I was, and I shouldn't have kept messing with it. I blew it out with the air gun and screwed it up. Actually, I had it right for a while, and that's why when I opened up this needle right here, this was clogged up in here. There's a check valve, and then there's a screen, and then there's a little, what do you call it over it, like a C-clip. That's underneath this. Now notice my spring don't come out because it's super glued in there on the bottom. And this thing here, I can flip it upside down. It doesn't fall out because even though the pivot works, right? I super glued it over there, and I says, I hate these little parts. And then you got your little needle valve that comes out of this. I'm going to show this on here better, but this is why these break where you can't fix them. It's these check valves, and I should have used a little common sense about using too much air. I was thinking, I didn't think there was another. I thought there was just a needle valve. I didn't know there was a check valve in there. I figured something was clogged up that I wasn't getting with the cleaner. So probably the best thing would, some of the kits come with a little screen, which I got in this one kit, and a C-clip that goes over the check valve. So maybe if you take the check valve out and you put that little tiny thing in the electronic cleaner with a little bit of soap or something, probably get it squared away. I'm going to get another. I think I got one that's on order. It was discontinued, but someplace had one. I think eBay has them. I'm not sure how you install them though. And but that's the Zama carburetor has those Welch plugs instead of this thing, and that screw, this screw here on the Zama carburetor covers that post. You notice my screwdriver is magnetized, which is handy. Actually, I wasn't actually going to make this for YouTube, but then I just decided on the spur of the moment I was going to make this for myself, actually, this video. But this is not the big deal with these things. And actually, I've been noticing, you got to really make sure you get the right kit, because there's a lot of funky kits out there from China that don't have all the right parts all the time, I don't think, because this fuel line is a 1/4 inch outside diameter and 1/8 inch inside diameter, and I actually ordered 50 feet of that junk because of this problems with that they keep breaking with the stupid gas. They kept giving me a 3/16 or some crap, or 5/3. I don't know what it was. It's a little thinner than a 1/4 inch. Now you notice, since I got this all like crazy glued in there, get that bitch on there right good. It gets in there really solid. That's good, but I gotta find the check valve. I actually got a screen with that little C-clip with the kit, and the check valve is $6 delivered if they got it, and I think eBay has them. Problem is, I'm going to show this on another video later when I get the damn thing in, because this is a common carburetor on these McCullough Mac 610s, and if it's a bitch to start, that check valve is not only the high side, but it's mainly the starting system and the high side adjustment. That check valve goes right in where the high side adjustment. It's also even the low side. And if it's screwed up where it's stuck one way or the other, your engine will be starving for fuel, or it'll flood out and the gas will be pouring out of the carburetor. And generally speaking, it has a lot in the fuels they got today with the ethanol. Man, I'm gonna get the StarTron stuff. I think that's the best stuff. Use premium gas, and I'm gonna use synthetic Quicksilver. What do you call it? D2 cycle oil with the mix, pure full synthetic. Hopefully, I'll avoid some problems, because I guess the next best bet would be Stable, the green. The Marine Stable 360 Marine, which is the green color, but I think StarTron might be better than that. So it's supposed to be good for up to 2 years, and it's supposed to keep that ethanol. And you want to use premium fuel, because this crap, that check valve with that tiny little screen is like impossible to clean if it with just the electronic cleaner, unless maybe you take it all out. And I think I blew it out with air or some crap, busted it. Yeah, the other thing is, you don't want to use carb cleaner on these diaphragms. And the diaphragm sits that way, facing down. WD-40, well, wait a minute, the other way around, but it's facing with the other holes facing down. It only goes one way, really. But I mean, you could put it on upside down, and sometimes you could put the diaphragm, this thing, first, then the gasket. The gasket's first, then the diaphragm, then the cover goes over. And what I like to do is, with this gasket here, not spray this on here. This is high-tech sealant. I take a Q-tip, I spray a little bit in the cap, and I go around with the Q-tip, and then the gasket sticks to the body, but it's not on there like glued on there. It's just tacky. You could still peel the gasket off, so there's less chance of a leak, because it's actually glued on there a little bit with some tackiness. You can still lift it up, and also there's a better chance you could be able to reuse the gasket with this stuff versus it just sticking on the aluminum and maybe getting a little moisture and corrosion and stuff. So it's another nitpicky thing. These things, you also got to watch the holes. See this? Sometimes there's different holes in these things, and they're not the right one. This is the right one, and I've been noticing like some of these kits are coming with some bullshit, because they're Chinese kits. They're not the OEM Walbro kit. I'm going to probably in the future grab a couple OEM Walbro kits, because this is the big Achilles heel of the saws today, because these carbs were designed back when there was no ethanol fuel, right? You know what that means, right? Yeah. So either you're going to have to use some really damn good additives, or you're going to be really building these damn things, and them check valves are going to be getting screwed up, and you're going to be wondering, I need another carb, this carb is bad. There's got to be something wrong with it that you can fix, and that's the part that doesn't come with any of the kits. Like I said, on the Zama carbs, they got a couple Welch plugs, and there's like a check valve under one of those damn things. And that's the part that, when the carb is bad and you did everything else to it, that's what needs to be replaced almost all the time. And you gotta watch you get the right one. Now here's the side of the fuel pump. You can see here's the flaps that go over this. Well, that's the pump side, goes over here, and here's the flaps that go over here. And I think there should be a screen in here too. That's probably blew that out too. But I want to fix this thing up right, and I do have another spare used carb on the way, which is cheaper than a freaking kit. Probably be alright. I still have some kits, but the deal is, more than likely, that little screen, which isn't on there, this thing, which might look good, could be the problem, even after you rebuild it. And also, that little check valve and that screen over the check valve could be the problem after you rebuild it, and then they say, oh, it's a bad carb. It's not a bad carb. There's only so much to these damn things, and at least it's not electronic. It's one thing. I'm going to tighten it up a little more. Then this, make sure that the gasket is not over that. And I noticed on this gasket I had actually take some of the gasket material away because it was just slightly partially blocking that hole, which is going to this right here. That gives the pulses from the engine to pump the fuel. That makes your pump work, which is that rubber diaphragm thing, not the diaphragm, whatever you call that thing, with the two reed valves on it, the one I just showed you. That pumps the fuel into here. And you can also check if there's something wrong in here. Put a rubber hose over this with your mouth, just suck in there, air it in and out, and here it goes like that, and you know it should be working. Or you could try to well, this would be messy. The way I would do it, even though it's a little more dangerous, I'd put a little bit of gas in the spark plug hole. I take a hose, dip it down in some of the fuel mix, and hold on the end of it with your finger. Then just put it like maybe a tiny bit in here, and I would start it just for a second with the fuel line off, just see if it pumps. And you can fill that up with gas a little bit. Well, just don't smoking, right? And you'll know, hey, you've got gas going up to the car. But I think almost all the time people are running, they're throwing away these carbs or rebuilding them. They're saying this carb's bad. It's that check valve. And they never come with the stupid kits. So, but I think eBay's got them. And that thing is so small that if you are not finicky, it makes the other parts on this thing look really big. That check valve is so tiny, it's mainly affecting your starting circuit and your high circuit. It makes the needle valve look huge by comparison, and a lot of these other things where, you know, it's going in here. So it's a tiny little sucker, and it's probably a design. I know it's a design from when ethanol fuel wasn't around, so I'm going to be extremely finicky with the fuel. I've been putting PRIG fuel stabilizer in a 2-cycle mix. I don't know how good that crap is. I've been hearing that Startron is the best junk. And I was not going to make this video, tell you the truth. I was just going to do this for myself because I'm double checking some stuff. And but I figured I'm going to upload this because this took a lot of research. And when I get that check valve in, we're going to see what the hell it is, because it's going to be common to this Walbro carburetor. Is probably common to about 40% of the freaking Mac 610s out there. And if they're hard to start, more than likely it's the tiniest little dinky part in the carburetor. In other words, it'll run, and maybe run pretty decent, but it's not going to run optimal. And nobody rebuilds that shit when you do it. And even when you put the electronic cleaner in there, you got a the ultrasonic cleaner with this soap and awesome cleaner. You really have to remove that and that screen, which I didn't do. And I think I blew it out with air a little bit, checking some stuff. I used too much air, probably just popped it out and went flying into oblivion. And that's when I had problems, because I never quite had this thing right. And it was pissing me off, and I says, you know, it should be perfect. It should start up really good all the time like what it used to when it was new. And that is the problem. And that is why I think it's the problem with almost all of them. And you do not see, I saw one video on the check valve, one guy that did them, and it was a different type. It wasn't this type. He did the ones that were, I don't know, they're like a, it's got a plunger in it. There's another kind that has like a capillary action. I think this kind has a capillary action. I'm not even sure how the damn thing goes in here. So more research, but that'll straighten out 90% of the problem. Oh, I want to actually mention this. I was mentioning about one problem with these magnesium cases is if you crack them, it's like, oh, you know, how do you weld it, right? And I was thinking about using that panel adhesive 3M08115, which is designed to put on rocker panels and quarter panels and door skins, and probably that'll work too. But you know what else will work? Aluma weld welding rods, which are designed to work with propane that melt at 730 degrees. In other words, you never freaking melt the magnesium. Like one part that often cracks on here, if you drop the saw really hard, is you can crack this right here. If you drop it on the top, you can crack that, and then you got to get this piece. But with that aluminum weld, you should be able to weld it in and actually reinforce the crap out of it in here, even make it even thicker. And it's stronger than magnesium, and it's you know, you could fix structural aluminum transmission cases where you bolt them into the engine and it's a tab. That stuff is very tough aluminum. So that aluminum weld welding rods that you use with propane torches can fix every magnesium part on any of these. So you can keep them running forever. I've got another one coming just like this. It's a McCullough. It says PM 610. It's Pro Mac 610, probably early 90s or late 80s. Instead, this is like a 1980 or 79. I want to keep two the same, learn the crap out of them, even though it's not the newest technology. As long as I understand every little part about the saw, it'll last me 75 years easy, right? There you go.